Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. It's been 9 months since a wildfire devastated parts of the Katlo-Deche First Nation in the Northwest Territories. And it wasn't the only recent disaster. Floods also destroyed homes in 2022. After the back-to-back destruction, 25 units are now arriving in the community, and residents are finally getting ready to move into their new homes. Carla Ulrich has the story.
What we work for, me and my spouse, for 18 years she was with me. Everything went up in just 1 hour.
Louis Tambour lost everything in the 2023 wildfires.
You know, everything around the house. But either we paid for it ourselves. You know, all the sheds, and I had about 6 sheds to my house. And all the material, the working materials inside there.
Since then, he's been living in the North Country Inn in Hay River, but soon Tambour will have a new home.
It won't be the same, but, you know, at least we have a roof over our head and a place to sleep and something to eat, you know. It's the main thing. I'm just glad no one got hurt in this fire, you know.
18 homes were destroyed by last year's wildfire, and 3 homes were lost in the flood 2 years ago. Residents like Tambour have been living in federal housing and hotels across the territory as they wait for a permanent solution. Now, new units are arriving in the community, and displaced residents will soon return home. Katlo-Deche First Nation Chief April Martel lost her home in the 2022 flood. She says the new buildings are a long time coming.
There's people that have been going through trauma after trauma, and we need to work with them, and we need to make sure that they're fully engaged.
Martel says some homes have already been delivered, and they're expecting more. The new units will replace homes destroyed by the wildfire and flood, and there are additional units coming in to help with homelessness in the community.
And so once the houses are on there, we have all the plumbers, the heaters, the electricians, the power corp, like everybody ready. It's a lot of work, but this is why we have, you know, a contractor, right, to make sure that that runs smoothly and properly.
Martel says they expect to have everyone in their homes by the end of March, a welcome end to a long wait.
I'll be really thankful if that day comes, I start moving in there. But until then, I guess I'll just live here, and call this a home for the time being.
Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
New homes are needed in Whitehorse too, not because of natural disasters, but because there is a housing crunch, lots of demand and not enough supply. As the population grows, the city is looking at increasing density, building taller buildings in the downtown core. Right now, you can't build anything in the capital bigger than 25 to 30 meters tall. But City Council is debating the idea of raising the limit to 40 meters. That's 12 stories. Most Whitehorse City councillors were in favor, but some are worried about things like parking, emergency access, and public opposition. One councillor says taller buildings would limit urban sprawl as the Yukon's population grows.
It's really because what we're seeing is the community of Whitehorse is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and we're blowing our own projections for population growth. Just last year, we saw within the first several months of the year, we actually had already surpassed what we thought our population was going to be for the year. And at the pace we're continuing to grow at, we're going to likely grow by over 9,000 people by 2033.
Laking says with the growth in the city, the only way to build is up. One of the tallest buildings in Whitehorse at this time is the Moss Point condos. That building is 20 meters or 6 stories. The Yukon NDP is calling on the territorial government to do better when it comes to gathering input on the new Residential Landlord-Tenant Act. A first round of consultations was held in Whitehorse last week. One attendee told CBC it was, quote, the worst public engagement they've ever seen. Now, the NDP leader says she's been hearing from people saying they didn't even know the consultations were happening.
And so the more conversation that happens and the more points of view and perspectives that Yukon government gets, the stronger the legislation will be. And so I wish they had reached out more and had invited more people in to participate. And partially being here and having this conversation is just that. You know, please fill out the survey, please go to those meetings.
The Yukon government says another round of consultations will happen in Whitehorse later this month. The homeless and the unhoused across Canada are facing a life or death crisis. That's according to a newly released report on the growing number of tent encampments across the country. It calls Canada's system broken. Megan Fitzpatrick reports.
The federal housing advocate Marie-Josée Houle released a final report today. She calls it a deep dive into the issue of homeless encampments. She undertook this review about a year ago, and it takes a look at why the number of encampments has been growing in recent years, especially since the pandemic. She says in her report that it's not just big cities like here in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal that are seeing a growing number of encampments, but in smaller municipalities as well and in rural areas. When she took a look at some of the root causes for the encampments, she's talking about a lack of affordable, accessible housing. She also says discrimination plays a role here.
And when we're talking about the root causes of encampments, we're talking about racism, colonialism, poverty, the breakdown of our welfare system, the breakdown of our health systems, the breakdown of our mental health systems, the breakdown of our housing and homelessness systems.
She also said in terms of emergency shelters that some municipalities offer, well, there's often challenges associated with those. You know, here in Toronto, for example, they're often full, as well as the conditions of those emergency shelters. They just don't work for some people. She also said one of the problems and one of the barriers to solving this problem of homelessness is a lack of coordination among various levels of government and also a lack of political will. She says here some stigma plays into that lack of political will. Now, Houle says her report is an urgent call to action for all levels of government in Canada, and that Canada does have the capacity to tackle this issue. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Toronto.
Healthcare in the NWT is getting a financial boost with more than $36 million coming from the federal government.
We need to be able to provide care for our Indigenous population. Those are the people that are, struggling in our communities. Those are, when we look at the rates of our chronic diseases, it's our Indigenous people that are suffering. And so when we look at a culturally safe healthcare system, we want our Indigenous people to be comfortable to accessing this care.
The federal and territorial governments announced 2 new agreements today at the NWT Legislative Assembly. Through those agreements, $24 million will be earmarked for things like improving healthcare recruitment and retention, expanding addiction services, and offering training for culturally appropriate care. Another $12 million will be used to support seniors aging close to home. The money is federal funding that was announced in previous budgets. The president of Nunavut says there needs to be more discussions about how to handle cases where people are fraudulently claiming Indigenous status. Luki Kutiak's comments came following a case of Indigenous identity appropriation. Last week, Karima Manji pleaded guilty for fraudulently claiming Inuit beneficiary status for her daughters Amira and Nadia Gill. The girls were granted status and got thousands of dollars in grants and scholarship money. Kutiak says prosecuting these matters as fraud doesn't go far enough.
It begs the question about whether or not there needs to be a larger discussion about non-Indigenous peoples claiming Indigenous identity, which I don't think was captured in this case, right? Because it's a fraud case.
Kutiak says NTI is strengthening the verification process for its Inuit beneficiary enrollment system. While some are calling for Nadia and Amira Gill to be held responsible, one Inuk lawyer and activist isn't as certain. Ayu Peter told CBC it's not clear that the twin girls were aware of their mother's actions.
It's hard to tell. As individuals, we cannot tell what the mother had told them. They may have believed they were adopted.
Karima Manji took full responsibility for claiming beneficiary status for her daughters in court last week, and the charges against the twins have been withdrawn. The Crown is now asking that the money, more than $150,000, be paid back to the Inuit organizations. Former Inuvik Mayor Derek Lindsay is being remembered as someone who loved his community and served it with passion. Lindsay died last week. He was 69 years old. The CBC's Des Loreen spoke with his family and friends.
I see somebody who was totally dedicated to the people of Inuvik. He loved Inuvik, and I think I can easily say he loved the people as well.
Derek Lindsay came to Inuvik from British Columbia in 1981. He was only supposed to stay 2 weeks, but what was originally going to be a short contract stint quickly morphed into more.
And that 2 weeks turned into 40-something years, and he didn't leave. He called Inuvik his home. He met his wife and soon gained stepkids, step-grandkids, and he has so much family here. So he never wanted to leave since then, and he still doesn't have a desire to leave or retire anywhere else but Inuvik. It is his home.
Lindsay worked as an accountant and notary public. He also served 4 terms as a town councillor and was mayor of Inuvik for 3 years, from 2006 to 2009.
I just want to extend, condolences on behalf of myself and council to a former councillor, a former mayor, a former friend of all of us. So we're going to miss him. He always tried his hardest. Sometimes it didn't work out. A lot of times it did, but he always gave it a real effort.
His commitment to the community did not end at the doors of the town hall. Lindsay also served the Legion as manager and long-standing member. His friend Fred Church will cherish their memories together.
There's so much I'd like to say, and I can't think of everything because of all these little things you do over 50 years amongst yourselves and your other friends. I just hope he rests comfortable in that. So,
a celebration of life will be held in Inuvik next week. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
When my grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, first arrived in Hollywood, it was a place of dreams. But my grandfather clashed with some very powerful forces in America.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Stand away from the stand!
I'm Una Chaplin. This is Hollywood Exiles. It's about a war of ideas that tore apart friendships, ended careers, and affected families like mine.
Hollywood Exiles, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed. It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
The Invalton contest is open. You can read, speak, sing, or do a skit in the dialect of your choice. And you can even use filters like this one. Una nutchuk. Buvraganetuk. This is a seal. It's going to swim.
Bad hair days. We all have them.
Even as scientists. I think I know my place. It's not making art.
What?
This is a whale? That's incredible.
I'm piloting a boat in the fjords of Norway. I love this job.
You never listen to me.
You never think things through.
Your honeymoon phase is officially over. We never had a honeymoon phase.
You really gonna make me say it?
Oh, yeah.
Fine. I need you, Max.
So much drama. I love it. You're tired of that? Stop it. Get tired of that.
Manitoba police are investigating a deadly case of what they're calling intimate partner violence. As we told you yesterday, it happened in and around a small community about 85 kilometers southwest of Winnipeg. A man faces first-degree murder charges in the deaths of his partner, their 3 young children, and a teen relative of his partner. Karen Pauls reports on how the community is coping with the tragedy.
She loved those kids. She loved those kids more than anything in the world.
Shaking, teary, and numb, Nancy Clearwater points at photos of her family, including her daughter and grandchildren, now gone.
Amanda Clearwater was the young woman hit. The 3 children, Bethany, Javen, and Isabella Manokizek. And then Maya Grattan was my niece, and she was in the house.
She is in mourning, while her daughter's 29-year-old common-law partner, the children's father, is behind bars.
Evidence that was gathered yesterday evening and early this morning has led, in close consultation with the Crown, to the laying of 5 first-degree murder charges against Ryan Manakisik.
RCMP say Amanda Clearwater's body was found Sunday along a highway south of Carmen. Hours later, the bodies of her 3 young children, aged 6, 4, and 2.5 months, were found at the scene of a burned-out vehicle. Earlier, police said a witness pulled them from the flames.
Further information has revealed that it was the suspect that removed the children from the vehicle.
This was the final crime scene discovered, the victim's home in the rural community of Carmen, where the 17-year-old was found. Neighbors left with so many questions.
I don't understand why the kids had to be involved.
In Winnipeg, leaders expressed their sorrow.
There is no explanation that can make this okay. This is pure darkness.
The community is rallying around the family, offering comfort and support.
There's a man here in town that's going to cover all 5 funerals.
Wow, how does that make you feel?
Shocked and in disbelief that somebody would do this.
That's the CBC's Karen Pauls in Carmen, Manitoba. There are serious warnings about an app that's supposed to help young people make new friends. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection has issued an alert about a significant increase in reports that the app is being used to sexually exploit minors. Julia Wong has the details.
The Canadian Centre for Child Protection is warning people about an app called Wiz and recommending parents remove this particular app from their children's phones. Now, Wiz is an app that's similar to Tinder, where users can swipe and message different people randomly. The company behind it says it's a place to meet and make new friends, and users are matched with those who are around their own age. Now, this app is meant for people 12 and up, but the Canadian Centre for Child Protection says it has received more than 180 reports about Wiz since 2021, and reports of this app have grown faster than any other platform. The center says the majority of these reports have concerned extortion, where someone is blackmailed with inappropriate images to then send nudes or money to a predator. Some teens we talked to have found themselves in uncomfortable situations with Wiz.
There's a lot of weird people on there. They like to ask for nudes and stuff like that.
What's happening is there are organized criminals that are located mainly in Africa who are connecting with youth using this app. They're seeking out youth that are within that age range, the 13 to 17 age range, and they are then extorting them for money.
On its website, Wiz says it is committed to protecting children online, saying it uses artificial intelligence, works with government bodies, and has a team of safety experts to ensure Wiz is a secure place for users. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
Many of the world's migratory birds and fish could soon disappear from the skies and the seas. That's according to a new landmark report from the United Nations. The research indicates which species are most at risk and why. Anand Ram has the details.
This is where we study bird migration.
To see just what migratory birds have to go through, here at Western University, they get them moving.
About 80% of the Canadian bird fauna is migratory. They do amazing physiological feats. They'll fly all night long, maybe 12 hours without stopping.
The challenges these birds and other migratory species face are the focus of a landmark UN report covering nearly 1,200 species of birds, mammals, insects, and fish. 1 in 5 of those is threatened with extinction. And for fish, it's even worse. The main problem at sea, say experts, human exploitation.
Hunting, taking for food, taking for sport, taking for sale. And then the second type of impact or threat is bycatch or unintended or incidental capture.
In other words, fish are being killed even when they aren't the target. For birds, necessary pit stops along the way used to be safe. Now, more are shrinking and toxic.
They're flying north during the spring migration directly through the agricultural activities of spring seeding, spring spraying.
The value, say experts, of these animals freely moving is what they bring across different ecosystems.
Salmon, when they migrate upstream into these, nutrient-poor areas, they bring nutrients from the ocean with them. There's pest control, like, what would our forests be like without migratory birds?
Part of a complex engine, and losing these moving parts could destroy ecosystems that ultimately help humans and animals thrive. Anand Ram, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Caribou hunting is now closed on Baffin Island. The Nunavut government says the quota of 400 caribou has been reached. The system was put in place to help the declining caribou population in the area recover. The government says any further hunting is against the law and will be investigated. All remaining tags are void and should be returned to the local wildlife office or Hunters and Trappers organization. After decades of work, Yellowknife will soon have a new museum specifically looking at the history of the city. The CBC's Mahnur Mubarak got a sneak peek.
The Yellowknife Historical Society has been working to open up its museum since 2002, but it wasn't until recently that there was enough money to finish renovations on its building. And it needed a lot of work, eliminating asbestos, installing heating and electrical wiring in the building. And now it's almost ready to open. When it's done, the museum will tell the story of Yellowknife's history, going back 4 billion years. It will include everything from last year's wildfires to some iconic Yellowknife oddities.
Because
somebody had one.
A guy had a lion. He would walk him up and down Franklin Avenue, and people got scared of the lion. So the town brought in a bylaw saying you were not allowed to own a lion in town.
The museum will also host a Hall of Fame, meant to commemorate the unique people that make the NWT capital great. The Society says it's important to remember people who make up the city.
Well, to me, people make the place. People are one of the main ingredients of a town, whether it's good, bad, indifferent.
Of course, you can't tell the story of Yellowknife without talking about mining. There will be displays on how gold was discovered and the tools prospectors would have used to find gold. You can even see the Coke bottles, one of them filled with what he found. Epp says mines are an important part of Yellowknife's history, and some people new to the city don't realize that there's gold here.
When you say to them, oh, well, we have 2 gold mines, they say, what gold mines? They're not familiar with that, especially if you came more recent than, let's say, 2000 or 2002.
The museum will also give people an idea of what stores and offices looked like in the 1900s and show the different types of minerals you can find in and around Yellowknife. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Kativik Regional Government has launched the second phase of its fiber optic network. There's now a 675-kilometer long connection, which links the existing line to Pavernatuk, Saluit, Akulivik, and Ivuyivik. The first part of the fiber line was laid down in 2022. To date, KRG has installed more than 1,800 kilometers of subsea fiber optic cable. In the Yukon, the Carcross Tagish First Nation is in the midst of building a new community kitchen. The First Nation hopes it'll allow for more land-based programs this summer. Virginie Ann went to check it out.
Underneath this pile of snow is the latest addition to Skookie's camp in Carcross, Yukon, a place dedicated for land-based programs and events. In a few months, Carcross-Tagish First Nation hopes to see its new wash house up and running, with wild game being butchered right here, as well as on-the-land gatherings and shared community meals.
So this building will operate on solar power and generator backup with battery banks. And it'll allow us to operate year-round. So that way we can host summer camps and winter camps. There's family camps that happen here.
Brown says the new facility will make it easier to hold longer, bigger events. And this resident says that's exactly what the community needs. Jerry James has been living in Carcross since he was 15. He said having access to the land and his traditional culture gives him a sense of belonging.
All I can say is that I'm very happy and honored to be part of this, and seeing our generation and our younger generation come forward and learn all the traditional values and virtues and everything that we can hand down to them as well too.
Once completed, the wash house will have 4 washrooms with showers, drinking water, and a full-size kitchen. All that to be able to ensure that the First Nation is passing on its culture. Virginie Anne, CBC News, Carcross.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
My name is Amanda Paris, and I am constantly thinking about culture, race, and social issues. So I want to push these conversations forward.
We found that there was animal meat fat in plastic synthetic hair.
There was a time where I'm like, should I have kids because the kids are going to be black?
I've been fired from my dream job. What's the worst that can happen now?
Now is the time to take the group chat to the real world. A 6-part series. This is For the Culture.
Watch free on CBC Gem.
Hey, you're some friends, aren't you? Stand here and now you try and blackmail her. You disgust me. Every one of you.
Coronation Street. Watch free on CBC Gem.
We've won the costume contest every year.
Bunny! Oh, you're squishing me. What have we done?
How can any of this be fair?
Now you might think, hey, we just need more doctors, but that's not really it.
A Russian scheme here
shows you where it starts, where it ends.
Were you really willing to risk that job? Yes.
At Thunder Bay's favorite festival, Wake the Giant.
Ta-da! There it is.
Whoa, what is this?
Crazy things have been happening.
Ghosting.
Ghosting. Watch free on CBC Gem.
My grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, clashed with some very powerful forces in America.
Are you a member of the Communist Party?
I'm Una Chaplin. This is Hollywood Exiles.